All right, can I call the regular meeting of council to order for Tuesday, November 26th? Take approval of the agenda, please. Councillor Noxana.
That the November 26, 2024 regular council meeting agenda be adopted as presented.
Seconder. Councillor Julik. All in favor? Carried. Adoption of minutes for April 16th, 2024 budget meeting of council minutes amendment. That the administration has identified an error in the minutes of April 16th, 2024 budget meeting of council. The corrections is as follows. Original text on page 3, 2024-2022 or 22-20, that council removes item 39, golf course gator replacement from the 2024 capital and special projects, 26,000. Carried. The amendment was 2024-22-20, that council removes item 39, golf course gator replacement from the 2024 capital and special projects for 26,000. Defeated. Take a recommendation, please. Councillor Norbury.
That the April 16th, 2024 budget meeting council minutes be adopted as amended.
Thank you. Seconder, Councillor Dussault. Discussion. Call the question. All in favor? Carried. October 29th, 2024 special council meeting minutes. Recommendation, please. Councillor Dussault.
That the October 29th, 2024 special council meeting minutes be adopted as presented.
Seconder, Councillor Clickash. Any errors or omissions from council? Staff?
No.
Thank you. Call the question. All in favor? Carried. November 4th, 2024 regular council meeting minutes. Recommendation, please. Councillor Noxana.
That the November 4th, 2024 regular council meeting minutes be adopted as presented.
Seconder, Councillor Dussault. Any errors or omissions from council? Staff?
No.
Thank you. Call the question. All in favor? Carried. November 12th special council meeting minutes. Recommendation, please. Councillor Norbury.
That the November 12th, 2024 special council meeting minutes be adopted as presented.
Seconder, Councillor Julik. Any errors or omissions from council? Staff?
No.
Thank you. Call the question. All in favor? Carried. Any business arising from the minutes council? Staff? Thank you. Okay, moving on to consent agenda. Take the recommendation, please. Councillor Julik.
That all items in the November 26, 2024 consent agenda be moved for information.
Seconder, Councillor Clickash. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Okay, are there any items the council wants to bring forward for discussion? Councillor Julik.
7.4.
Okay, for discussion, I'll second that. Go ahead, Councillor Julik.
I thought it was a well-written letter, and I would like to make a motion that we go ahead and sign that letter and send it off as requested.
Okay, before we do a motion, I'd like to have a little bit of discussion.
Okay, that's fine. I
And
can.
the only reason I want to go to the two people that would have been involved in these meetings.
Okay, that's fine for me.
Okay. Councillor Noxana attended the leadership meeting on my behalf as I was unavailable for that date. I had other meetings. I know she attended at the leadership table, and this was where it was discussed. Councillor Noxana mentioned to me on her return, wanted to know how to bring it forward, and I mentioned that it would obviously come from Mr. Bumstead, which it did. That's how it's in the agenda, but maybe if you can just fill us in some of the conversation you guys had.
Absolutely. So the conversation was that a specific MLA or MLA candidate running for the Conservatives had very racist comments it came out through the campaign. And the idea behind the conversation was to write a letter to the leader of the opposition and the premier denouncing comments like these from elected officials and hoping to have the entire leadership table sign the letter Mr. Bumstead was drafting. And then in our agenda package, this is the letter.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Norbury attended the PRRD meeting on my behalf. I was away on holidays. Councillor Norbury.
Thanks, Mayor Kakaka. No problem helping you out there. Same with Councillor Roxanne, I'm sure. Yeah, so this was discussed at the PRRD meeting last week, and the almost unanimous consent of the members at that table did not approve signing this letter as it was written. As Councillor Noxana stated, the concerns that were brought up at the leaders' table were specifically for one Conservative candidate who was not elected, and that was the concerns at the table. So the concerns were going to be brought to the PRRD chair, in which he's going to bring it back to Mr. Bumstead for revision. And once that revision takes place, the board will review it and likely sign it. They were not against anything in the letter, other than it didn't specifically speak to the issue at hand. And there were some comments at the open portion of the meeting that allowed for residents' input, and they felt that it was too broad, and they felt that it was an expression towards them in particular, and they took offense to that fact. So personally, I didn't have any issue with the letter. I think it's always a great thing to denounce racism at all places. Thanks.
Thank you. Just before we go back to Councillor Jig, is there any other discussion from council? I just want to make a couple of comments. I did reach out, and I appreciate the two councillors making the comments. So I have reached out just to have a conversation. I've talked to some of the other directors from the PRRD, because I was very concerned that we have done culture awareness safety training through the PRRD, and obviously we've taken it on through the district of Tunbridge with council support. And I think it's very, very important when we have something that triggers us. And it was talked about in one of the first sessions that we went to. If we continue to allow those and not trigger something that offends you to stick up for it and push back, it never stops. When I read the letter, it talks about racism and anti-Indigenous stuff. So they're talking about it all, and I don't believe there was just one candidate that was running. That was not, that there was other racisms brought up by, maybe not Indigenous ones, but there was other ones. And so my thoughts here, I fully support this. My understanding, I did reach out to Dale Bumstead, just to ask them how it went and stuff like that. So they actually used a lawyer. There was concerns about just naming one individual, that it could, there could be some pushback from that individual, feeling that they were attacked as well, even though that it was during the election. It's sad to see that maybe the PRD didn't support it because they were reading too much into the letter, but I just think council needs to be aware that, I think we started that process of culture awareness training, same with staff. And this is something to me that shows that we don't want to see it. We don't want to see the racism towards Indigenous people, but racism to any individual. So I fully support the letter. I know I won't take the motion. I'll let Councillor Julik put the motion on the floor.
I would like to make a motion that we sign the letter as presented in our package.
I'll second that. Okay, any discussions on the motion? Okay, can I call the question? All in favor? Motion carries. Any other items council like to bring forward for discussion? Okay, moving on to bylaws. Council remuneration and expense amendment bylaw number 742, 2024 readings. Report dated November 26, 2024 from the Director of Corporate Services, seeking 3 readings to the Council remuneration and expense amendment bylaw number 742, 2024. Take a recommendation one at a time, please. Councilor Norbury.
That council gives first reading to the council remuneration and expenses amendment bylaw number 742, 2024.
Seconder, Councillor Julik. Any discussion? Call the question. All in favor? Opposed? Councillor Noxana is opposed. Motion carries. Second recommendation, please. Councillor Julik.
The council gives second reading to the council remuneration and expenses amendment bylaw number 742, 2024.
Seconder, Councillor Hoffman. Any discussion? Call the question. All in favor? Opposed? Councillor Noxana is opposed. Motion carries. Third recommendation, please. Councillor Dussault.
That council gives third reading to the council remuneration and expenses amendment bylaw number 742, 2024.
Seconder, Councillor Clickash. Any discussion from council? Call the question. All in favor? Opposed? Councillor Noxana is opposed. Motion carries. Council Equipment Reserve Fund bylaw 743, 2024 readings. report dated November 26, 2024, from the Chief Financial Officer, seeking 3 readings to the Council Equipment Reserve Fund bylaw number 743, 2024. Again, we'll just take recommendations one at a time. Councillor Knoxena.
That council gives the first reading to the council equipment fund bylaw number 743, 2024.
Seconder, Councillor Julik. Any discussion? Call the question, all in favor? Motion carries. Second recommendation, Councillor Norbury.
That council gives second reading to the council equipment fund bylaw number 743, 2024.
Seconder, Councillor Hoffman. Any discussion from council? Call the question, all in favor? Motion carries. Third recommendation, Councillor Knoxena.
The council gives third reading to the council equipment fund bylaw number 743, 2024.
Seconder, Councillor Dussault. Any discussion from council? Call the question, all in favor? Motion carries. Fees and charges for services and information amendment bylaw number 744, 2024 readings. Report dated November 26, 2024, from the Director of Corporate Services, seeking 3 readings to the fees and charges amendment bylaw number 744, 2024. Recommendation 1, please. Councillor Julik.
The council gives first reading to the District of Tumbler Ridge fees and charges for services and information bylaw number 744, 2024.
Seconder, Councillor Clickash. Any discussion? Call the question, all in favor? Carried. Second recommendation, Councillor Norbury.
That council gives second reading to the District of Tumbler Ridge fees and charges for services and information bylaw number 744, 2024.
Seconder, Councillor Knoxena. Any discussion? Call the question, all in favor? Carried. Third recommendation, Councillor Knoxena.
The council gives third reading to the District of Tumbler Ridge fees and charges for services and information bylaw number 744, 2024.
Seconder, Councillor Clickash. Any discussion? Call the question, all in favor? Carried. Okay, moving on to 2025 council meeting schedule. Report dated November 26, 2024, from the Director of Corporate Services regarding the 2025 council meeting schedule. Recommendation, Councillor Julik.
That council approves the meeting schedule for 2025 as presented.
Seconder, Councillor Norbury. Any discussion? Call the question, all in favor? Carried. Development variance permit application, 360 Northgate. Report dated November 26, 2024, from the Director of Corporate Services regarding development variance permit application 360 Northgate Street. Recommendation, or Councillor Knoxena?
The council authorizes administration to proceed with the next steps of the development variance permit applications submitted for 360 Northgate Street, Strata Lot 10, District Lot 3164, Peace River District Strata Plan PG 132.
Seconder, Councillor Norbury. Discussion? Councillor Clickash?
Yes, this variance is pretty close to the property lines, and hopefully they know where those are because there was some difficulty in that area. So I was wondering if they should have a survey.
Ms. Scott?
Sorry, I'm just having a quick look at the report. I believe that that is the purpose of the development variance permit, is they're seeking permission to reduce the setbacks. Yeah, it is. That's what they're looking for.
Yep, that's what they're looking for, but Councillor Clickash is just mentioning to make sure that we have the right pins as per what they're asking for a variance. Is my understanding, Councillor Clickash?
Yes, there's other fences in that area, and we don't know whether they're in the right place or not because there's been some issues in that area. So I would recommend that they get a survey either before or after. Make sure that that's on their property.
So is that something we can add to the variance application as it proceeds, that we're also looking for this? If council was to support an amendment?
I will ask Director Curry to provide that information.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Scott. Good evening, Mayor and Council. So as part of the next step in the process, we will be doing the notification to affected individuals, and then we'd also be considering with the technical survey of the area, including if using the the survey certificates that we have on file, and if those were proven to be inaccurate, or if there's a question of it, then we can require the proponent for the variance application to complete a survey at their own cost.
Okay, thank you. Any other discussion? Councillor Julik.
Yeah, generally we get a picture in here that kind of shows where things are. And so I didn't go out there and look, which I definitely could have done. I did not. And 0.5 of a meter doesn't seem like a lot of space for me either. So I guess what I'm asking or wondering, I have the same concerns as Councillor Clickash. And so I'm wondering if staff is comfortable where that is, if it is in fact 0.5 meters from that space. And then, of course, I guess if we get the neighboring people to give their feedback. So us saying to go ahead with it isn't necessarily saying it's going to take place, right?
Correct. So this just goes back out. I'll be honest, maybe Ms. Scott will talk to it. Staff's putting this in front of us to make the decision. If staff says, oh yeah, we're fine with it, you should just go with it. And they're becoming political instead of staying apolitical. But yeah, this is the first steps that they'll do all their stuff, the information just as the previous ones, and then come back. But, it was one thing I was going to mention, that we had no drawings in here, and I know myself, I've had to excuse myself when I applied for my variance, but I actually had to submit drawings. Is that not something that we request in a variance, is that they supply drawings and mapping, picture drawing, whatever it may be?
When they submit their actual application, yes. You'll note under governance considerations that the corporate officer has included in there that the process we are currently following for consideration of these kind of applications could be improved to make sure we are following the requirements under the Local Government Act better. And part of that process would be to make sure that council has all of that information to begin with. So there's not a would we consider it, would we not? You're going to have all of that information to be able to make those decisions all at once.
Okay, thank you for that. But that is something that's normal when they apply for a variance at our front desk, that they have to supply a drawing, a handwritten drawing. I just want to confirm that. I was requested when I did mine.
I believe so, but in case I'm giving you wrong information, because I don't receive those applications. So again, I'll ask Director Curry to provide that information.
Thank you, Ms. Scott. Your worship, you're absolutely correct. Yes, it is. This is a very unique case that the building has already been built in this case. This application is coming from a direct result from a compliance issue with bylaw and the setback. So we haven't invested a lot of staff time into this. We haven't done site surveys. I could have shown a picture of the lot certificate, but it wouldn't accurately show where they put the addition. We don't have that facts and figures because we haven't done the legwork. That's part of the next process. So should this pass today, the next step, as I alluded, is to go back out. We would take those, that survey certificate, we'd amend it, we'd make drawing that's on there. If we needed to get a survey, we would request that the proponent do so, and then give you all of that information to make an informed decision at that time.
Perfect. Thank you for that. Councillor Dussault?
Thank you, Mayor. Where am I going? There were some requests made previous to this property in regards to what they already have built. I did get a bit of a drawing this morning when I went through my agenda review with Fire Chief Cory. And the way they built the carport, the one way was right against the fence, and then they decided just to put the carport around the back. But what they had done is also created some water damage that went into Telus as well. So my question would be, has there been any updates on the requests that were made on this property before we proceed with this?
Ms. Scott?
Again, I'll defer that to Director Curry to provide that information.
Thank you, Ms. Scott. Mayor and Council, no, there hasn't been any updates, as is the property owner's it's their opportunity under legislation to apply for a variance permit. Typically, when this happens, we stall for a moment while we determine next steps from council's point of view. Should you decline this tonight, excuse me, should you decline this motion tonight to move forward with the process, we would re-engage with the property owner to see compliance.
Thank you. Any other questions? Councillor Gillick.
It's not a question, was gonna say that I'm in favor of going ahead with, I'm comfortable that staff's gonna bring us back more information, so I'm good to go with it as is.
Thank you. Any other discussion? Councillor Hoffman?
Thank you, Mayor. I don't see why we need to spend staff time on this. It just seems like a straightforward violation. Honestly, it's a storage shed on a property that can sufficiently accommodate storage in many places on 360 Northgate. I'm just going to put it out there. I don't see why staff should be spending time on this. I think they've gone out, they've looked at it, it's in violation, and instead of a process to keep a shed, I would encourage staff to just re-engage with no, and I'm sorry that this 1.5 feet is not sufficient. So we're moving forward with that. So I'm actually not in support of this motion. I think we should leave it in staff's hands instead of continuing with this.
Okay, thank you. I'll get clarification from Ms. Scott. I believe the proponent has applied as per direction from staff, is my understanding when I read through the report. Is this was a tool used by staff, bylaw, whoever it may be, to help the business, to help the property owner out, stating, listen, you're against the bylaw because of this, but you have the right to apply for this. That could bring you into compliance. So that's why the variance is in front of us. So we either proceed with the variance, which is normal for staff's time. I heard it from staff about having the information that they have to go and get and do and stuff like that to start the process, send it to the neighboring property owners to see if there's any concern. Ms. Scott, I'm assuming that's correct. It's my understanding of the background information and stuff like that.
Because they are not in compliance, they do have the opportunity to apply for this variance. If council wanted to stop it at this point and say, no, we know this, we're not in favor of this, then we would not need to prepare any reports or go any further with it. But if it is something that council may want to consider, then yes, we would proceed with it. But yes, this is their opportunity, because as Director Cory had said, bylaw had followed up that said, this is not in compliance. And this is their opportunity to have council reconsider that.
Thank you. Councilor Norbury?
Thank you, Mayor Kukalka. I'm in favor of this moving forward. I mean, I think every person has the opportunity to apply for variances. We've approved many. And let's give the opportunity to let people have their feedback, and staff can provide a report at that time. So, thanks.
Thank you. Councillor Clickash?
I feel that it's up to them to prove it to us that they're in the right spot. It's not up to us to give them the right to go ahead on this. The only thing that can do that is a legal survey to show exactly where they are on the property. And from there on in, if they're at a 1.5 meters away from, or 0.5 meters away from the property line, and they bring it back to council, and we decide that that's okay. Now it's on the property, but it's 1.5 meters away, or 0.5 meters away. Then you can move ahead on it. Otherwise, you can't approve anything.
Yeah, so we're not approving anything except for moving forward with the process of the variance.
Right.
So there's multiple steps that staff will take, as well as the landowner, to work through this process, and engaging the property owners around this area, around this property, as well as staff doing all their background. So it's not approved. We're not approving the variance. We're just approving for the process to start.
Yep.
And then we'll get the information back from staff, whether there's any concerns from the public, like from the other landowners and such, or residents. And then council make a decision when that comes forward, either to allow the variance or to deny that variance. But this is just the first step. Okay. Any other discussion? Okay, I'm going to call the question. All in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. Okay, Min 21, sale of advertising policy amendment, report dated November 26, 2024, from the Director of Corporate Services seeking approval of the proposed amendments to the Min 21 sale of advertising policy. Recommendation? I'll put the recommendation on the floor that the Min 21 sale of advertising policy be amended as presented. Take a seconder. Councillor Julik, discussion? Councillor Julik?
So I do have one question, and I couldn't find it in here. I did read fairly quickly. So I'm just wondering about how staff will determine who gets contacted. Like, so which groups, like, is it only available for nonprofits? Is it available, like, so I don't see anything of that specifically in here. So so then how would somebody get on the list as well as, yeah.
Yeah, so I'll go to Ms. Scott, but my understanding is it's for non-for-profit. They put in their name or whatever at the community center and such. And then when a company decides that they want to do a billboard at the ball diamonds or inside the ice rinks or that, they pick what non-for-profit they want their funds to go to. But I'll just confirm that with Ms. Scott.
Yeah, I'm just reading the procedures there where it says that the district will notify the groups each year. Nonprofit organizations, community groups, and charities will receive notice. So that, to me, that reads more than just nonprofit organizations, but to answer your question about how we notify or who we decide what groups would be notified, I will ask Director Bento to provide that information.
Thanks, Ms. Scott. Good evening, Mayor and Council. Yeah, that is correct. So we have, usually what happens, the business, they contact the nonprofit organization they want to donate, and then we receive that information after.
So if we can just get clarity, I did push Councilor Julius button already, but if we can just get clarity on how a group or charity or non-for-profit sign up with the district, or how does the district make sure all are aware that this is available to them so they could try to solicit a company that's going to put a sign up. I'm assuming that's what Councilor Julik was looking for.
Yeah, so again, I'll ask Director Bento to provide that information.
Your worship, yeah, we have a list of non-group profits, for-profit, and we update that list every year.
Okay. Follow-up, Councilor Julik?
No, I think that's good. If they update it, that's,
Okay, thank you. Any other discussion? Call the question, all in favor? Motion carries. COFI 2025, report dated November 26, 2024, from the Executive Assistant regarding COFI 2025. Recommendation? Councillor Noxana,
The council receives this report for discussion.
seconder. Councillor Julik. All in favor? Carried. Councillor Noxana?
I'm assuming it's on here because we discussed it at the PNP and you, as the mayor, wanted to accept Kofi's invitation?
Yeah, so when we talked about it at the PMP, we didn't know the other expense amounts, so staff went away and got the rest of it. So we do get certain things, we get a free night of hotel through Kofi and such, but we didn't know what the travel amount was for a motion we put forward that, you know, that night there, it was just myself that had said I'd like to attend. It was still open for other councilors to attend if they wish. But yeah, that's why it was put back, just so we knew the amount. We weren't just blind approving an amount.
Do we have to motion for you to attend, or it's
We do.
already in our? Okay.
We would have to have a
Let
motion.
everyone discuss and see.
Is there any other discussion? Somebody want to make a motion? Councillor Julik?
I don't want to make a motion until we get an approval of who wants to go. Like, so for me, I'm good to make that approval if there's more than just you wanting to go.
Yeah. Anybody else want to attend COFI 2025? No? Okay. Just want to make sure I give you a chance. Councillor Julik.
I make a motion that we approve expenses as noted for Mayor Kakauka to attend the Kofi conference.
Okay, thank you. Seconder? Councillor Noxana, any other discussion? Call the question, all in favor? Carried. Okay. Schedule of meetings. Just a couple things from my side. Just a reminder to council in regards to the food drive tomorrow, fire department and council and mayor's food drive. 6 PM. If I could just ask staff where we're meeting, sometimes we meet at the fire, or some meet at the fire hall, but most go to the church. So I just want to confirm, Ms. Scott, that it's the church so that it's less impact on the volunteer fire department, trying to get everybody back up to the church and then waiting for groups so they can get back to their vehicles. Just want to confirm. Normally we meet at church, but I know some have gone to the fire hall, and we should just maybe make sure we're going to one location from.
So I will ask Director Cory to give you that confirmation.
Thank you, Ms. Scott. Your worship, yes, we would prefer if everybody could meet at the church for 6 o'clock, and then we will proceed out about quarter after, and then on our routes.
Okay, thank you. So for any council and that can make it, we're meeting at the church, I would say 5:30-ish, so they can set it all up and know what vehicles everybody's riding in and such, and the plan forward. Ms. Scott, I'd also take this opportunity, if there's any staff that want to be involved, you know, it's not just the Tumble Ridge Fire Department and Council and Mayor's Food Drive. To me, this is put on by the District of Tumble Ridge with our food bank to try and make sure that we can help the people in our community. So if there is any staff that want to partake, it just makes the job lighter for all involved. The other thing I'll mention is December 4th is the Holly Jolly with the tree light up and such at the community center. So feel free, please, to attend. It's always nice if we can get some counselors there when we do the tree light up. Both years that I've attended, it'll be my third. I mean, I've attended as a counselor. Normally, I do not light the tree up. I usually try to find a young child and get them involved. Last year was Councillor Norbury's daughter. And I think it's great. Like, it's amazing at the end of it how many children run up to you, want to know if they can sign something for next year so they can do it. So I think it's great to get the young children involved, and it's really for them and the community. So I believe in that. And then the other thing is on Friday, December 6th, is the DTR Christmas party being put on by a committee. So if the council can just remember that. And if you haven't registered, I would think that they want how many people are coming very, very soon. So please, if you can get that into Ms. Scott when you can. Okay, is there any other concerns from schedule and meetings from council side? Ms. Scott, from your guys' side?
I just want to point out that the mayor will not be here on December 4th for the Holly Jolly.
Yep.
So maybe there's somebody else from council who wants to attend.
It'll be the acting mayor, which will be Councillor Norbury.
And I haven't got through all of my emails yet, but I believe there were some about December 12th. I think it might have been in regards to the residential development strategy.
Yeah, there is something there. Staff had sent it out. So we can maybe just tag that email back to council. Yeah, so, I mean, I know I hadn't talked to Councillor Norbury yet, but my travel was approved to go to Vancouver to meet with Wes Mobley, so. I got your speech already. Perfect, thank you. Okay, is there anything else from council in regards to scheduling meetings? Okay, notice of motion, director training requirement to receive district funds. At the November 4th, 2024 regular council meeting, Councillor Julich brought forward the following notice of motion. Councillor Julich.
That District of Tumble Ridge funds can only be given to nonprofit boards where the majority of the board has had director training.
Seconder. Councillor Noxana. Discussion. Councillor Julich.
The reason I brought this forward is as we discuss budget and we see how much money we have going out, and it leans back a lot towards my own experience being on a board. I'm not sure that folks in the community know exactly their responsibilities when they sit on a board, what they're responsible for legally, how to work with staff. There's a lot of nonprofit boards in Tumbler Ridge that have a staff member, which is a whole other can of worms. When we're giving away as much money as we are to nonprofits, I think that there should be a sense of responsibility that they know the best way forward in running a board, whether it be policies and procedures for staff, whether it be their responsibility for funds that are brought in, that kind of thing. I was fortunate to receive some training when I was on the library board, and then when I was with the Geopark, we had a member from the province come. Her name was Deb Griffiths, and she gave a presentation that laid out quite vividly what can happen when you don't have proper board training, so that you don't know about, like, so that you maybe don't have policies and procedures in place, and then how things can go sideways in a really big hurry. And I witnessed that with 3 boards for sure that I served on. So I think it's us doing our due diligence as council when we've given, like last year, we gave over $1 million away. And we as council need to make sure that we have knowledge of how things go. I think that it's important that we set our nonprofits up for success, and I think that this is one of the ways we can do that.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Norberry.
Thank you, Mayor Kakalka. I had a question for Councillor Julik. Where can all nonprofits get this training, and what is the cost? Yeah, there are 2 mentioned, but those seem like they were at least the geopark, it was offered by the province. Yeah, that's a question that I'd have.
Previously, Community Futures offered it. I know there's a few different places that online, like a lot of the training was online that you can go to. It was a quick search that I did to make sure that I wasn't asking for this when there's no reasonable expectation to be able to access it. The BCLTA actually has an amazing package for that. So the BC Library Trustees Association. Now I know that that would be specific to the library, but I believe just when I did a quick search that there was pieces of that available, and I'm quite sure staff would be able to. I did follow up with Community Futures, and they don't have a program right now, but they are looking at one for the spring. Yeah, so I believe that there's the possibilities there. I don't know what the cost is for it. I think, though, it's a one and done kind of thing. Like once you have the training, it's not like you have to continue to do the training. So if you've had the training because you sat on one board, then you still have that training when you move to the other board. So I'm not adverse to asking staff to send a list out or whatever that looks like. But I think I think we need to start putting some onus back on our nonprofits as well and the people that run them to protect themselves.
Thank you. Councillor Hoffman and myself.
Thank you, Mayor. We were just discussing it, but if we're not going to provide it, or at least be in between to make sure that it's done to a particular standard that we want, I think this is a tough ask. Outside of the library board, if there's an easy one there, but both for potential cost, we don't have an answer. That's fine. I haven't looked at it at all either, but I can imagine somebody asking a friend to go on a board and then finding out that they needed to take a class and pay for it themselves before that they would even be able to, I'm worried about this causing people not joining boards because there's a cost associated, a time associated on top of what else is there. I don't have a problem with the concept, but I think if we want to do this, that we need to have our ducks in a row, that it was not a burden on people to join boards. We all sit on these and we all see who regular comes and not, and when you lose somebody, it's a hard thing for these boards to find somebody else to replace at the best of times. So I don't have a problem with the principle, but I would want to see the whole, how are we going to manage this before I would support something like this. Thanks.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm going to make a couple comments. I think Councillor Hoffman made a couple comments already, but I think the principal concept here I think is great. I think one thing we need to look at is, to me, do we cover it? That'd be my concern. Is usually non-for-profit groups or other organizations are coming looking for money because they need money. How do we expect them to pay for the training as an organization or as an individual to be able to sit on a volunteer board? And the other comment I'd like to make, and I think it's a great motion that you brought forward, a recommendation. To me, we need to. We're already starting budget. To me, for these people to go and get this and try to scramble and everything else, to me, I think we put a year's grace on it if council, like maybe some amendments, maybe a report from staff. What does it look like? What would our budget need to be to put on a course twice a year for the next 3 years or something to get enough people through? When we all ran for the election in 2022, one of the biggest things during the election was volunteer burnout. Now what we're saying, and I appreciate what you did here, but now we're saying unless you have this on certain boards or whatever, and I believe we have quite the list that we give money to through grant and aid or fee for service, Now, this here could actually strap boards and them lose boards or lose volunteers. So to me, I'd like to see, I'm not saying a report, but I think we need to get some more information. Is it something we can put on? Can we do a partnership with Community Futures or another opportunity, some other maybe grants out there to be able to do this for non-for-profits to get board training, but also open it up to other boards within the Peace Region District. I mean, it's, there's something maybe we take, send a letter to the PRD, maybe they'll throw some funds into it too, because there's groups that we fund through the PRD as well, not the same way as the DTR does. But that'd be my thing, is we're right in budget, so people, my thoughts would be these groups that may be applying through the grant need or the fee-for-service coming up are gonna scramble trying to get some kind of board training in place so that they can actually get some kind of funds, which could end up seeing a lot of these groups go away. And I think, to me, our community's been built on all the volunteering and such like that, where you can't put a dollar figure to it, and the groups that they run or are a part of. So that'd be my only concern there. I think we need to get a bit more information before we put the hammer down and have a grace period so that it doesn't affect and people are trying to scramble. We're, the end of November, December's coming and we're already going through it. But I think, there's some more discussion there. Councillor Julik?
Yeah, and I appreciate the feedback. I would agree with you. I wasn't necessarily thinking that it'd be right away. The thing for me why I think it's important, and I understand the concern around that we would lose volunteers. Here's the thing though, we have people volunteering and taking on a role where they don't understand their full responsibility. Because we don't have this type of training, because we don't talk about it. We don't talk about the fact that if your nonprofit decides to take a loan, you as a director is responsible for that loan. And so often when we're just trying to fill a seat, it's not the safest thing to do. Do everybody that sits on the board understand the risks when there's a theft because there's not proper policies developed? So I just think that there is a lot of trickle-down effect that we've been fortunate, to my estimation, that hasn't necessarily come to the forefront. But I think that it's important to move forward. And I think that that's part of the reason we have volunteer burnout, because people don't understand that they're either on a governance board or they're on a working board. And if you don't have any training to distinguish those two things, then all of a sudden you have an executive director that's supposed to be doing work, but you don't understand that they're actually supposed to be doing the work because you're a governance board, not a working board. So I think that that contributes to some of the volunteer burnout. So I'm willing to defer this motion and ask for staff to look into those other pieces. Because I agree with you, Mayor Kakauka, that if we had 1 or 2 years that we offered it, I don't think that we offer it indefinitely. I think that it's something that boards, we're only asking for the majority of the board. So some boards are 12, so that's 6 people. Some boards are 4, so that's only 2 people. We're just asking for the majority of the board to have the training, and then they're setting the rest of them up for success. We're setting them up for success then. We're not going to be hearing some nasty story down the way because we haven't prepared them for what their responsibilities are from a board. We give over $200,000 to one of our nonprofits, $40,000 plus to others. Well, it's just, there's big chunks of change going out there, and I think it's our responsibility as councillors to make sure we set them up for success. But I'm prepared, and if Mayor Kakauka can tell me if this is not the time, but I'm willing to defer this motion and ask for staff to come back with more information for this motion and the next.
Yeah, I just need to get a little bit of clarity from staff first, just because, we can defer the motion, but the motion's gonna be live, and we'll have to put a date to it, it's gonna come back, but then we have to put another motion on the fly to direct staff to go get us a bunch of information. And to me, there'd only be a couple words that we'd have to change in here to state that we're looking for a report. As long as, to me, we're talking about the same thing. I don't think it's against the notice of motion, but I just want clarity from Ms. Scott, because I don't want to go down the line that I'm going to do something that really, to me, it's going to be the same concept of the notice of motion, but it's actually giving it back to staff to actually produce up a report with information on it. Would that be the same concept of the notice of motion that came forward at that November 4th meeting?
No, I don't believe it would, actually. I think that changes the intent of this notice of motion.
Okay, thank you. I'm going to go to Councilor Norbert, and let's think about it here for a minute. Councilor Norbert?
Thank you, Mayor Kalka. So, yeah, I mean, I'm not opposed to giving nonprofit organizations governance training. I think that's a great idea. But putting this barrier in front of them to receive funding, I think would create a lot of challenges and issues. Right now, we see a lot of AGMs are happening. Right? So sometimes there's a lot of new people on boards because, volunteer burnout happens, right? Like I look at my soccer, right? Like every year it's almost a whole new board. And, what if they want to come in for jerseys in 1 year, or they need help for a capital purchase, and then they can't check this administrative box? I would be concerned. And that's, that pulls on the heartstrings example, right? I understand what I'm doing here, but, I would be concerned that we can apply that to a lot of other organizations, right? Like they've just had their AGMs, they have, over half are new board members, and they aren't able to meet their, this requirement on them. This requirement that, as far as I'm aware, like, I haven't heard of this before. Through the South Peace Health Services Society, I receive, hundreds of thousands of dollars from the BC government, and I don't have this requirement of training. I have reporting. Absolutely, I have reporting to make sure that I'm being responsible with the funding, all those other things. Same thing for the PRRD. We receive funding there. That's not a requirement from them. I think a lot of the concerns that I have of the volunteer burnout, the issues that we put upon volunteers, I think this would hurt them. I think it'd make it harder for them to operate. I see our role as assisting them to do their what they want to do easier, and not make it harder, and that's the concern. I can appreciate the intent of we want to empower you, but at the same time, like, we're empowering you, but how many people are able to do that, or is this kind of like well, maybe I'll just stay home and watch Netflix instead. So, yeah, thanks.
Thanks. Any other discussion? Councillor Julik, I think, I'd like to work with the CAO on this, but I think maybe instead of deferring it in this meeting, to defer it to a PMP. I make that motion?
You want me to make the motion?
Yeah.
Sorry,
I
thought
can make
you
it
were
for you.
making the motion. No,
could make it.
I make a motion to defer this to a PPC meeting.
Okay, seconder. Councillor Dussault. Any discussion in regards to that? Okay, gonna call the question. All in favor? Carried. And then there's a second recommendation there, Councillor Julik, and maybe if you just read it out, we'll get a seconder and then defer it.
The District of Tumbler Ridge funds can only be given to council-appointed boards where the majority of the board has had director training.
Seconder. Councillor Noxana. Discussion. Councillor Julik.
I'd like to defer this motion to a PPC meeting, please.
Thank you. Seconder. Councillor Noxana. Any discussion on the deferral? Call the question. All in favor? Carried. Okay, councillors' business. Anything from the floor from council? Councillor Julik.
Sorry, wasn't paying attention. I was in Prince George last week for the Mental Health and Addictions Conference put on by the NCLGA. It was really well attended. The folks that started it were really happy to see the attendance that was there. There was a lot of relevant information that was handed out. I learned about Northern Psychiatric Hospital and a petition, so I'll be bringing that shortly to council. It was just super, it was really good information. I would say I was as happy with it as I was with the rural one. Honestly, they chose some really good speakers and really great information. So I'm hoping that they can continue that because they did a really good job and had a lot of tables set up for things I didn't know. So I'm going to put that in the report because I think it's good information for our youth to have here in the community as well as adults. So yes, I was really grateful to be able to attend the meeting.
Perfect. Great to hear. Anything else from council from the floor? Okay. I actually had it fairly slow. I was away on holidays. So I didn't do a whole bunch in the last few weeks there, just with being on holidays. But I have had a meeting with CANUMA, just so council is aware that the Quintet Restart Committee that I sit on through the government, we have initiated and we've started that process. And just starting the stages and stuff like that. And they've set their own timelines. So far, the timelines have been held by Emily. So that's, to me, is good news. I really can't share what comes out of the meetings at this point. When it's clear that I'm allowed to share it, I'll share it with council. Other than that, I did have a meeting with Mr. Doki, Dean Doki from West Moberly. He's one of the elders there. We just had a chat in regards to Westmo and some of the stuff he's working on. Again, the First Nations really appreciate when we show up to events. So whether that's the event that a few of us showed up to, the TLE signing, it really shows the elders that there's support coming out of Tumble Ridge, and that's something that they're really enjoying, that we're showing up and stuff. So not all of us can always make it each time, but I think it's something that we need to make sure that it's not just West Moberly and Soto and McLeod and Kelly Lake. Like there's Doig River and stuff like that, that I have talked to the chiefs there to make sure they have my email, because they are part of Treaty 8, and there's nothing that we can't, same thing as go up and support some of the stuff they're doing and stuff like that. So, all right, that's all I got. Okay, take a resolution to close. Oh, sorry, hang on a second. Question answer period before I forget that one. Ms. Scott, are there any questions coming in from email?
No, I have not received any.
Thank you. Take a resolution to close. If we can use the handout.
I have the online one, so that the November 26, 2024 regular council meeting be closed to the public according to section 91, C, J, and K to permit discussions about C, labor relations or other employee relations, J, information that is prohibited or information that if it were presented in a document would be prohibited from disclosure under section 21 of the Freedom of Information and Protection of Privacy Act, and K, negotiations and related discussions respecting the proposed provision of a municipal service that are at their preliminary stages and that in the view of the council could reasonably be expected to harm the interests of the municipality if they were held in public.
Seconder, Councillor Hoffman. All in favor? Carried. 5-minute recess. Just need to find my page so I make sure I got it marked down. All right, rise and report from the closed. 4.1 is, the recommendations are that 2024-2028 financial plan be amended to reflect the capital project budget be increased up to 10,000, and the special project budget be reduced by 10,000. The second recommendation, that up to 10,000 of the unused 2024 PRA funding be allocated to the fire pumper apparatus to cover the balance of the initial payment as per the terms of the contract, with up to a 10,000 decrease in allocation of the PRA funding from the 2025 budgeted amount for the fire pumper replacement. The third recommendation was the council award the RFP for the fire pumper apparatus to Hub Fire Engines, and that the mayor and the CEO of the District of Tunbridge are authorized to sign the contract as required. Other rise and report was a community center parking lot report, the recommendation to award the tender of the paving for the community center parking lot to Procore Construction Utility for the amount of $839,895, including GST, and the mayor and the corporate office be authorized to sign the contract. Another rise and report would be the reconsideration of dangerous dog destination. Recommendation as a rise and report, the council upholds the decision of bylaw enforcement to designate Nanook as a dangerous dog. Take adjournment of the open. Councillor Knoxana.
That the November 26, 2024 regular council meeting be adjourned.
Seconder, Councillor Dussault. All in favor? Opposed? Carried.